got the opportunity to see him in his six-armed form. So I'm only going to read half of the purport, and then we'll discuss. So half of the purport is about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and half is about Nityananda Prabhu. So I thought we would read the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu half and we'll save the Nityananda Prabhu for his appearance day. So this is from the purport. This is an excerpt from the purport. The form of Shadbhuj, the six-armed Lord Gaurasundara, is a representation of three incarnations. The form of Sri Ramachandra is symbolized by a bow in one hand and an arrow in another. The form of Lord Shri Krishna is symbolized by a stick and a flute, like those generally held by a cowherd boy. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is symbolized by a sannyas danda and a kamandalu, or water pot. Om Gyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauritvishe Namaha Hare Krishna. So it's always such an honor and pleasure to speak here at the Govardhan Eco Village, a place that is so pristine, so this takes us to the village life of Vrindavan that is also combined with a lot of progress that's being made. So this is something that's new for me. I haven't spoken here at Leta Bhavan, so please let me know if I'm audible. I know sometimes we have vehicles going by and things like that. Is that okay? So just let me know, please. Don't just tolerate if you can't hear, because I would like to make this a little interactive also, and we can have some discussion. So as most of you know, this week we've been specifically reflecting on and hearing about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in anticipation of his appearance day, Gaur Purnima. I read something interesting recently where Srila Prabhupada, I think it was in a letter, but Srila Prabhupada, he told some of his disciples that Gaur Purnima is he said, this is the words that he used. He said, an exact facsimile of the appearance of Lord Krishna. So they were asking how to celebrate Gaur Purnima. So he said, you celebrate like Janmashtami. But he used this phrase, an exact facsimile. I thought that was interesting. But just as with Janmashtami, we try to meditate on and reflect on and have it cultivate the consciousness of welcoming the Lord and preparing for his appearance, not just celebrating his appearance 5,000 years ago, or in the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, more than 500 years ago, but celebrating his appearance even today in our own hearts. And so it's so nice that we've been meditating on this leading up to the big day on Friday. It's Friday here, right? On Friday. Let's check the calendar. I thought it was Thursday, but it's Friday. In preparing for this, I was thinking about what it means to encounter Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the first time. So this particular verse is talking about the meeting of Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So of course they're eternally together, but for the past time they're meeting. So I was thinking about what does it mean to encounter Lord Chaitanya for the first time? For myself, I was born in a Hindu family, but I wasn't born in a Gaudiya Vaishnava family, and we weren't particularly religious or very well read. Or I should say, at least I wasn't when I was growing up. So the first time learning about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like a revolution. I'd never heard of this person. In fact, I have a very distinct memory, even when I was a kid. Um, it was 1986. And I remember that because we were here in India, we were visiting India, and my, like, a family friend, but very close, like my father's best friend. So practically like you can say like an uncle, like a chacha or a kaka. Um, he gave me a gift, and his gift to me was the Bhagavad Gita as it is. That he wasn't a practicing devotee or anything, but he had gotten, I think, from the Delhi temple. We were in Delhi, and he knew that I liked looking at these pictures, like religious pictures, and he saw that this edition of the Gita has many beautiful color pictures. So he gave it to my father to give to me as a gift. So they gave me this big Bhagavad Gita as it is. I still have that copy. It's really very precious to me. It's like one of my most precious possessions. But it was like quite big for like a little kid, you know? Um, and I remember opening it, and on the first page, because it was printed in 1986, on the first page, it said, in commemoration of the glorious 500th anniversary of the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu associates on Harinam Sankirtan. It's not a very common painting. I see it from time to time. It's a BBT painting, but it's one of the not such a common one. But it was such a beautiful painting. And I remember the painting is like the perspective that the artist gave. It's almost like Mahaprabhu and his associates are about to like march out of the painting into, it's almost like a 3D effect. I remember just being like, even as a kid, like, who is this? I knew Krishna, I knew Ram, right? The images, but who is this person with long hair, with arms upraised, and it looks like he's just like marching out of the page towards me. So for some of us, maybe we grow up. Um, if you don't mind, can you please raise your hand? Please raise your hand if you grew up with the worship of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or knowledge of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in your home. So some fortunate souls. So whether you grew up with Mahaprabhu or not, at some point maybe there was some encounter. So just before we move on, I just want to ask, if you'd like to, you can close your eyes, and no force, if you'd like to get into a meditative mood. But just try to remember when you had this experience of encountering, of meeting Mahaprabhu, of finding out, maybe a devotee shared about Mahaprabhu, or you saw a painting, or you saw Gaurnitai deities, or this Gauranga Mahaprabhu deity. And just try to connect with that feeling, that magic of first meeting Mahaprabhu. Maybe you didn't know it at the time, but your whole life was about to be turned upside down. Right? This is the the mood of Mahaprabhu, just giving, distributing love of God, whether we know it or not. So I wanted to begin with that because sometimes we, after many years in bhakti and in following this tradition, this Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we might take it for granted. And Gaur Purnima comes around every year and we just, okay, it's a nice festival. But if we can somehow reconnect with that beautiful vision, that darshan of Mahaprabhu for the first time. Does anyone want to share before we move on? Anyone have, you don't have to, it's very personal, but if anyone has any kind of recollection of a first encounter or special encounter meeting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah, so just as you mentioned, Prabhu, I didn't know about Mahaprabhu, and I also came across through Bhagavad Gita, which we had as it is at home.
So
But
similar.
I never could connect who are these five personalities. Until in my second year of engineering, came across devotees, so Gauragopal, Prabhu, and I asked who are. In fact, their hairs was so long that I thought they are women.
Yeah.
So I asked, who are these personalities? No, they look like women. So he mentioned first time that he's the Lord himself. No, as a child, the teacher teaches the student. No, just A holds his hand, writes A with the child. Similarly, Lord has come himself to teach how to be his devotees.
Yeah.
So that was the first time.
That's a beautiful way of understanding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you for sharing. Also, the mistaking Mahaprabhu for a woman, that is also a common. So, in case you were feeling a little bit like embarrassed about that, some of you may know there was one of the earliest disciples of Srila Prabhupada in the West. He was a really wonderful person named Harvey Cohen, who Prabhupada gave the name Haridas. Bless you. And he was an artist. Actually, he was a very like modern artist. But Prabhupada said, "Oh, you're an artist?" And Prabhupada was so eager to engage. He said, "Oh, you can paint this picture." So he gave him a print. It must have been one of these like Brijbasi Sons, type of print. But it was a print of the, Sankirtan or the Kirtan and like Srivas, that like very typical kind of scene. And he had him paint it. And he was not even initiated at that time. So this Haridas Harvey, he remembered that he just thought they were women, and he painted them, and he painted them with breasts like a woman. And he was just thinking like, it's like it's a very normal thing. So Prabhupada, just imagine Prabhupada's like, we talk about culture shock, right? Prabhupada's there, and now this person who's not even really a disciple yet, but he's engaged in some service. So he shows him, and Prabhupada was so just very appreciative, very cool. He just appreciated. He said some nice things, right? Gave some nice feedback. Then he just said, "Oh, but this you can just you change this." So he had him change it. But he was so encouraging. He didn't say like, "Oh, what did you do? This is nonsense. This is this. You got it all wrong." He just said, "Oh, this what is just a little detail. They're men, not women, so just change this." But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Maybe we could take one or two more. If anyone has. Shruti, sorry, you can pass the microphone back to Shruti, and then we'll go over here.
So my first encounter with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was probably our deities at home. I don't know. I think that they bring a sense of familiarity because our temple room is like one room in the house where it's like everybody goes at night, especially during Karthik. We all go, and then like dressing the deities for special occasions. Yeah, that's the first time probably because I grew up in this like culture and practice.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to mind was our deities at home.
Yeah. So she grew up with our main deities are Gaur Nitai, Nitai Gaur Sundar. So yeah. Beautiful. Yes, Prabhu, one more.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I belong to Odisha, and my hometown, my name of my hometown is Chaitanya Pada.
Oh, wow.
The name of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
Because when Lord Chaitanya was going from Jagannath Puri to South India, he went through that. So in my childhood, every day I used to see that people used to do Nagar Sankirtan in that village. They have a tradition that every day in the evening, before going to sleep, they used to do Nagar Sankirtan in the whole village, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And they used to have this Panchatattva deity photo in their hand, a altar, moving altar. So I used to, in the childhood, I used to see that, what is that photo? What is there in that altar? And I used to see 5 persons standing. But I never knew that is Lord Chaitanya Nityananda until I got connected to ISKCON
Yeah.
in my college days.
So you had no idea.
No
Those
idea.
5 people were waiting for you. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So like that, we have our different encounters and there's different forms of Mahaprabhu. So for the rest of our time this morning, I want to focus on the form that's being discussed in this particular verse. So I chose this verse specifically because this is one of at least 3 that I know of, but others, if you know of more, you can say. But there are 3 times that I know of that Mahaprabhu showed this particular form, which is known as Shadbhuj. Shadbhuj, Shad 6, Bhuj is arm or hand. So Shadbhuj. So the first is actually this verse that he shows this form to Nityananda Prabhu. Does anyone know the second? Yes.
The Brahmana who was going past Jagannath
Who
Mishra's
makes the
house.
offerings and he has
Yeah.
to keep making the offerings.
Yeah, so that night,
So was that a Shadbhuj form
Yes.
that Mahaprabhu showed?
Yeah.
Wow, so then there's 4. So I didn't have that one on my list. There's also an Ashtabhuja form that Mahaprabhu shows 8 arms. But so I didn't know this one. Okay, so let's say that's the second, or maybe that's the first then. This is the second, and then there's two more, both in Odisha. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he shows after this whole beautiful exchange, and he just totally transforms Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's heart. He shows him first, I think, 4 arms, then he shows him the 6-armed form. And then Ramananda Roy. Does he show Ramananda? So that's another one that I didn't have. I thought Ramananda Roy, he shows Radha and Krishna combined. The person that I was thinking of was also in Puri in Orissa, Maharaj Prataparudra. He shows 6-armed form. But I'll have to do more research to see. Maybe there's more. But those are the 3 the 3 that I remember or that I've read about and that I know of most prominently. So this is the first. So what is it about this 6-armed form that's so special? And how can meditating on, reflecting on the 6-armed form, how can it help us to grow deeper in our own connection, our own appreciation of Mahaprabhu? So I want to jump from the Chaitanya Charitamrita to the Srimad Bhagavatam for a moment. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto specifically, there's a series of verses in the 5th chapter of the 11th canto. And these verses are very famous because, among other things, they predict. So there are some verses about Mahaprabhu that were composed much before the time of Mahaprabhu. And so, especially as Gaudiyas, sometimes when the question is raised that how do you Gaudiyas accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Fine, he's a great saint, but how do you accept him as Krishna himself, or even an incarnation? So we generally, our acharyas in our line, we point to these verses. There's a very famous one in the 11th chapter, or the 11th canto, 5th chapter, 32nd verse. Does anyone know the verse that I'm thinking of? Some of you may have, I haven't committed it to memory. Some of you may have committed it to memory because you're really good with memorizing verses. It begins, Krishna Varanam. Krishna Varanam, and then what's the next one? Tvisha Krishna. So what is this Krishna Varanam, Tvisha Krishnam, right? Krishna Varanam, it's understood in different ways. So one way of understanding Krishna Varanam is the color of Krishna, so the color of black. But Varanam can also refer to reciting, saying. So one way that our acharyas explain Krishna Varanam is always reciting or always repeating the name Krishna. But then Tvisha Krishnam. So what is Akrishna? Means not black. Krishna means blackish. Akrishna means not black. And in this case, not just not black, but what is the, I don't want to say opposite, but what is the other side? Krishna is gold. So Trisha Krishna means golden complexion. So this verse is predicting and then goes on with his associates, and it specifically uses the word Sankirtan, which makes Gaudiya Vaishnavas so happy. That Bhagavatam is specifically recognizing in such detail not just the color, not just the activity, but actually the the yeah the activities, the pastimes, the mission of this very particular avatar who comes in Kali Yuga. So we often point to this verse, isn't it? That he's the same Krishna, but in a golden complexion, and with his associates, he's performing this Sankirtan, this Yuga Dharma of Harinam Sankirtan. But that's not the verse I want to talk about. The verse I want to talk about happens 2 verses later. So this whole section, 32, Shlok 32, then 33, and then in 34, which is the verse I want to look at, this personality, he's not named directly as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but a synonym is used. So instead of Mahaprabhu, he's called Mahapurush. And there are prayers that are offered to this Mahapurush. So in the 34th verse, it goes like this. Tyaktva dustyaja surepshita rajya lakshmim dharmishta arya vachasaya dagad aranyam maya mrigam dayita yepshitam anvadharvad vande mahapurushate charanaravindam. And this is the translation that's given. This is one translation that's given, but as we'll see, there are many ways of translating this. So this is the translation that's given by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, following in his footsteps in the 11th canto. O Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet. You gave up the association of the goddess of fortune herself and all her opulence, which is most difficult to renounce, and is hankered after by even the great demigods. Surepshita. Surepshita. Sura is the demigods. Ipshita is desire. So Surepshita. Desired by even the demigods. Being the most faithful follower of the path of religion, you thus left for the forest in obedience to a Brahmana's curse. Out of sheer mercifulness, you chased after the fallen conditioned souls who are always in pursuit of the false enjoyment of illusion, and at the same time engaged in searching out your own desired object, Lord Shamasundar. So who is this personality that's being spoken about? So we read this verse and we believe that this is a prediction of Mahaprabhu. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we understand this to be Mahaprabhu. But one of the most amazing things, and why this verse is, I think it's one of the most beautiful verses in the Bhagavatam, that actually our acharyas transcendentally, they agree, and they transcendentally also, they have different visions for who is this Mahapurusha. And as we'll see, there's no contradiction actually. So we're going to look at, I would like to just look at briefly how 3 of our acharyas understand this verse. Sridhar Swami, who is before the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then of course, Jiva Goswami, who is directly following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then in our line, a little bit later, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So according to Sripad Sridhar Swami, the great commentator of Bhagavatam, who Mahaprabhu himself was so faithful to, who is the personality that is being glorified in this verse? Does anyone want to say? Who is, according to Sridhar Swami, which particular manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is being glorified in this verse? Does anyone know? Lord Ram, Sri Ramachandra Bhagwan. So how so? So Sridhar Swami gives this interpretation that you, O Mahapurusha, you gave up the goddess of fortune herself. So he explains this in 2 ways. One is that Lord Ramachandra, by his inconceivable will, he had to give up the company of Sita Devi, who is the goddess of fortune herself. Also, he gave up the kingdom of Ayodhya to go into exile. And how did he do that? Or Why did he do that? Sridhar Swami explains, because of Arya Vacham. So Arya, who is the Arya here, is Maharaj Dashrath. So because of the words, the Vacham of Arya, Dashrath Maharaj, he had to Aranya, go to the forest. And while in the forest, what did they do? What's one very famous pastime that happens when they're in the forest? Chasing the golden deer. So you chased after the illusory deer, the Maya Mrigam. Why? Because of the desires of Sita Devi. So this is how Sridhar Swami interprets this verse. So we can use this verse that how merciful is Lord Ramachandra, and based on that we can glorify Lord Ramachandra. Okay. Jiva Goswami, while fully honoring and worshiping Sridhar Swami, he says, yes, but this verse also refers to our Sri Krishna. So how does this verse apply to Sri Krishna? So Sri Krishna, he was by a certain, understood in a certain way, we have to be careful, but understood in a certain way, where does he appear first? Where is he born? As the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he appears in Mathura. But what is the opulence of Mathura? The opulence of Mathura, according to Jiva Goswami, is such that even the demigods in the celestial realms, they're constantly desiring to come to experience the opulence of Mathura. So, Surepshita Rajya Lakshmim. So Jiva Goswami says this refers to Mathura, and that Krishna, he left Mathura not just as an adult, but he left that Mathura as a newborn. And why did he leave Mathura? Aryavatam. So who's the Arya here? Just as Dasharath was the Arya according to Sridhar Swami, the Arya here is Vasudev and Devaki. That because of the noble Vasudeva and Devaki, they requested that, my Lord, although we love you so much, we want you to stay here, we fear for your safety, so you please leave here. You please allow me to take you. And so he gave up Mathura. He renounced Mathura. Why? Just to fulfill the request of his noble parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. And where did he go? He went to Vrindavan, to Vraj. And what is Vraj? What is Vrindavan? Is it a city? No. It's the forest of grace. So Aranya. So he goes, so that's the Aranya. And then now Jiva Goswami really takes a turn. It's really interesting. Now Jiva Goswami says that Krishna, when he gets a little bit older in the Aranya, in the Van, the Vrindavan, what does he do? What is he doing when we see him? And Jiva Goswami says he's running around from here to there. Anvadhavat. Anvadhavat means running from here to there. Chasing, running, chasing. So why is he running from here to there? He's running from here to there because he's totally controlled by the gopis' love, and particularly by the best of gopis, Srimati Radharani. And so Jiva Goswami says that here, the deer is actually Krishna himself. He is what's called, Jiva Goswami says, I'd never heard this before. He says, Krida, he says, this Maya Mrigam is Krida Mrigam, which means a toy deer. So just like little girls like to play with different stuffed animals, different toys of animals, right? Beautiful little. So like that, Radharani has a toy deer that is Krishna. That's how much she controls Krishna. That's how much Krishna is just running after Radharani and all the gopis. So this is Jiva Goswami's interpretation. And finally, we come to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives us the interpretation that our BBT edition of Bhagavatam is offering, that this Mahapurusha is actually Mahaprabhu. So what is Mahaprabhu's leaving of the goddess of fortune? How do we understand that? Renouncing. And particularly, not just renouncing, of course, in our culture, we should see that for grahastas, when the wife enters the home, she's seen as a goddess of fortune, metaphorically. But in the case of Mahaprabhu, who is his wife? She was actually the goddess of fortune, who came in the form of Vishnupriya. young, beautiful, faithful wife, newly married practically. And he left. He left her. He renounced even the goddess of fortune, who had all good qualities. Why? Of course, there's the larger reason of why is for all of us and for everyone to be able to reach the most people with his mission of pure love of God. But by his own arrangement, externally, does anyone know what is the story of why Mahaprabhu had to take sannyas? Yeah. So Mahaprabhu in his ecstasy was chanting Gopi, Gopi, and the very puffed up, proud Brahmin boys, they were making fun of him. They were not appreciating. So Mahaprabhu saw, I'm reaching so many people, but I can't reach these people if I stay in this this form, this ashram. So I need to make a change. And so he arranged for, very mystically, he arranged that shortly after this, is it after or maybe after or before? I'm not sure. But he arranged that there was one Brahmin was trying to get into the very intimate kirtans. This is afterwards. So this Brahmin was trying to make, to crash the party, so to speak, and attend this kirtan. And he wasn't allowed to. And this Brahmin, inconceivably, he wasn't even purposely doing this. He was actually a very nice Brahmin. But inconceivably, by the Lord's arrangement, he cursed Mahaprabhu, apparently in anger. And he cursed him that just as you're not allowing me to enter into this home, you will have to leave your home. And then he immediately came to his senses and he begged forgiveness, but Mahaprabhu was very happy and he said, no, I've arranged it in this way. So this is the Arya Vachan that's being spoken here, the curse of the Brahmin. Apparently because of the curse of the Brahmin, Mahaprabhu had to take sannyas. And so Daitaya, out of mercy, he anudhavat, he runs after, he's running, he's chasing. And who is he chasing? Maya Mrigam. He's chasing the conditioned souls who are you and me. We're just like deer. We're searching here and there, everywhere for that treasure that's just waiting for us, but we're looking for it in all the wrong places, right? There's an expression in English, looking for love in all the wrong places. So we're looking for true love, true happiness, that which will fulfill us. But we're looking here, there, we're thinking, if I can just make enough money, or if I just find the right partner, if I just get into the best college, whatever it is, if I just get the newest iPhone 16 Pro Max, I'm revealing my own heart's desire with that one. Whatever it is, we think if I just get this thing, right now I'm unhappy, but if I get that, I'll be happy. But Mahaprabhu is chasing after us saying, no, that's not what will actually make you happy. Let me give you what will make you happy. So he's glorified in this verse as chasing after the conditioned souls. So which is it? Is it Ram? Is it Krishna? Or is it Mahaprabhu? So let's take a vote. How many of us are convinced by Sridhar Swami's arguments that this verse is glorifying Sri Ram? Remember what Mahaprabhu says about if you disagree with Sridhar Swami. That's a different class, but Mahaprabhu had some strong words for those who disagree with Sridhar Swami. So yes, it's true. How many of us really have faith in Jiva Goswami that it's Krishna that's being glorified here? No. How many of us are on team Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai, Mahaprabhu? So it's all three. It's all three. Of course, we especially want to recognize, so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gets some extra credit because actually, if you look at the context of this chapter and this section, specifically, this is actually Narada Muni is speaking to Vasudev. And he is describing all of the different forms and names of the Lord throughout all the yugas. And he's going in order. So this description is actually found when he's talking about Kali Yuga. So even if it's referring to Sri Ramachandra, even if it's referring to, Vraj Gopal Krishna, because it's talking about Kali Yuga, it has to also be referring to some personality in Kali Yuga. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. Why would not it start talking about Ramachandra, just Lord Ram, out of the blue, right? So this Mahapurusha has some connection to Kali Yuga. So we believe that it is all three. I want to read just a little bit as we wind down. This is a very lengthy purport. I'm not going to read the whole purport, but I want to read the last paragraph of this purport. This is written by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, following in his line and following in the explanations of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But I just want to read, please listen to this last paragraph, because I think it brings us back to our verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. They write, corroborating the explanation of this verse, the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's us, we're aspiring to be the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also worship him in a 6-armed form called Shadbhuja. 2 arms carry the water pot and danda of the sannyasi Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 2 arms carry the flute of Lord Krishna. And 2 arms carry the bow and arrows of Sri Ramachandra. Now, I love this last sentence of the purport. This Shadbhuj form is the actual purport of this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we want to understand this mystery of this verse that somehow is talking about these 3 personalities, all we need to do is we need to worship or take darshan, have darshan of this form of Shadbhuj. And we understand it harmonizes. In fact, there's such a deep understanding. We have a little bit of time left. I just want to share a little bit more about this Shadbhuj form, that there's such a deep understanding of this particular form that's so special, because Mahaprabhu is in this form revealing a little insight into his mission. That the same mission that he accomplished as Lord Ramachandra with bow and arrow, the same mission that he accomplished as Sri Krishna playing his flute, he has come to fulfill that mission in the form of Mahaprabhu, and particularly by taking sannyas, this act of mercy where Mahaprabhu gave up. Mahaprabhu could have stayed in that form that everyone loved. He broke their hearts actually taking sannyas, but for the higher purpose of fulfilling this mission, of reaching all the conditioned souls, of chasing after the conditioned souls. This very deep understanding is revealed in another text similar to the Chaitanya Charitamrita called the Chaitanya Mangala. Many of us are familiar with the Chaitanya Mangala of Lochan Das Thakur. In the Chaitanya Mangala, Mahaprabhu reveals and gives us some insight into the power of his sannyas and this relationship between his sannyas and the activities of Lord Ramachandra and of Vrindavan Krishna. It's a beautiful prayer. I won't say the Bengali, I'll just read the English. But he offers a prayer. Who does he offer the prayer to? Does anyone want to guess? Okay, I'll make it a little bit easier. What does he offer the prayer to? It's not a who, it's a what. He takes sannyas and he offers a prayer to his danda. This is the prayer of Mahaprabhu to his danda. He says, "O my danda, although I have given up everything by becoming a sannyasi, still you have not given me up. You stay by my side, accompanying me life after life. When I was traveling in the forest as Ram, you were always in my hand as my bow and arrow. During my pastimes as Krishna, you were always there in my hands as my flute, captivating the entire world with divine love. And now, after I have abandoned everything as a sannyasi, still you remain with me as my danda in order to vanquish the non-believers of Kali Yuga." Isn't that so beautiful? In a previous yuga, you were my bow and arrow, and you helped me to vanquish the Rakshasas and the Asuras. And then you became my flute. And then you vanquished anything that was acting as an obstacle between the gopis and my own heart. And now you take this form and you continue to help me vanquish. But how do I vanquish the conditioned souls in this Kali Yuga? Not by killing them with weapons, but actually by begging and pleading and just distributing the mercy. This is how Mahaprabhu vanquishes. So as I was doing a little bit of research for this, so some devotees have shared some really beautiful reflections on Shadbhuj. So His Holiness Indradumna Swami, who's a very, he's a devotee of this form. He's very enchanted by this form. So he shared some realization. He says that this form shows his beautiful kind of three levels of the Lord's mission. So he says, as Lord Ram, he's known as Maryada Purushottam. What does Maryada Purushottam mean? Anyone can say what is? Yeah. It's beyond certain limit, right? So Maryada literally means limits, right? So what does that mean? The Purushottam of limits. Well, he holds back. Why? To set an example. So he is that Purushottam that is all about dharma. And so in his dharma, as Lord Ramachandra, he's always protecting the sages. And he's also protecting us by setting the right example, even to the point of, again, it's a really difficult pastime to talk about, and it's very complex to understand how he could even, after basically fighting a war to bring Sita Mata back, how he could then apparently send her away. Just to set that example, just because of his love for that someone should not misunderstand or follow in the wrong example or the wrong footsteps. So this is Maryada Purushottam. But then Maharaj says, as Krishna, he's not so concerned with being Maryada Purushottam. He is, anyone know? Leela Purushottam. It's all about the pastime. And in that Leela Purushottam manifestation, the same Supreme Lord, his focus is on Ananda, on bliss, on just enriching and deepening the experience of his devotees through his pastimes. But that same Leela Purushottam, it intensifies and deepens into Prema Purushottam. That Prema Purushottam, that Mahapurush that's being spoken about in the 11th canto, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has come to bring us, to invite us, to take us even forcibly, to chase after us and bring us into the realm of Prema, of pure love of God. Whether we think we want it or not, he doesn't set these prerequisites. He's just giving. Beyond even sarva dharman prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. He's not even saying, do this and give, and then I'll give you. He's just giving, pure love of God. So this is the very special mercy of Mahaprabhu. And if we want to meditate on this mercy, especially in anticipation of Gaur Purnima, if we want to meditate on how to encounter, how to meet Lord Chaitanya, we can, if we're inspired, meditate on this form of Shadbhuj and these connections between the Lord as Ramachandra, as Krishna and Vrindavan, and finally as Mahaprabhu. So just in closing, I wanted to give the last word, so to speak, to Srila Prabhupada, because this Shadbhuj form, although Prabhupada didn't, to my knowledge, he didn't install this form as a deity form in any of his temples. Although there are many temples, including I think there's in if I'm not mistaken, in Jagannath Puri there are some deities of Shadbhuj that are worshipped in different forms, and in our Gaudiya line we do worship Shadbhuj. Please say. At Jagannath Temple itself, there's the form of Shadbhuj, yes. But although, as far as we know, Srila Prabhupada didn't install these forms himself, but he was very much an advocate of worshiping this form and meditating on this form. And so the specialness of the form of Shadbhuj, Srila Prabhupada writes about in a purport. If you're interested, the verse it's the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, 5:19, 8. or 8 and 9. It's combined verses. So I'll just read a little bit from that purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Sri Ramachandra, of course they're discussing Lord Ramachandra. Lord Sri Ramachandra is so kind and merciful to his devotees that he is very easily satisfied by a little service rendered by anyone, human or not. Reminds us of the story of perhaps Hanuman and the Vanaras, and then that's depending on your version of the story, the spider or the squirrel that's just kicking some sand. So Lord Ram is so merciful, is so kind, so appreciative. Prabhupada goes on, this is the special advantage of worshipping Lord Ramachandra, and there is the same advantage in worshipping Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the fifth canto, Prabhupada brings in Mahaprabhu. Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra, in the manner of Kshatriyas, sometimes showed their mercy by killing asuras, but Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awarded love of God without difficulty even to the asuras. All the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but especially Lord Ramachandra, especially Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and later Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered many of the living entities present before them, indeed almost all of them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore represented in the six-armed form of Shadbhuj Murti, which is a combination of Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now this, please, if you don't remember anything else, I know there's a lot of things in this class. If you don't remember anything else, please, in anticipation of Gaur Purnima, take this one sentence that I'm about to read and just install it in your heart and meditate on this in celebration of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is how Srila Prabhupada concludes this purport. He says, the best purpose of human life can be fulfilled simply by worshipping the Shadbhuj Murti, the form of the Lord with 6 arms, 2 arms of Ramachandra, 2 arms of Krishna, and 2 arms of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Shadbhuj Murti Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki. Thank you very much. I think we have about 5 minutes. If anyone has any questions, comments, reflections, corrections. Yes, Vilas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro, for such a beautiful reflection. Bro, I was just thinking that in the context of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being the Yuga avatar for Kali Yuga, how does he simultaneously meet the mentality of the people of Kali Yuga and also proposes to take them to Krishna Prem in today's times? What teachings of life or from whatever you wish to highlight from the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what are the most relevant instances, teachings to today's times, today's confusing times, and how is the potential to take this people to Krishna Prem? It sounds a little very lofty.
It's a very deep question. I can just share a little bit, but I also would love to hear. So one thing I think is, I think Prabhu, you were mentioning, right? Like this, when Gaur Gopal Prabhu told you about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as that, showing by example, that like the teacher making the letter A, and right. So Mahaprabhu just modeling that devotion. Of course, it is very ideal and lofty, but also in many ways, just very practically showing, right? What are the practical aspects of how to practice Krishna consciousness? Sometimes it's said, I'm not sure of the full context, but I believe Mahaprabhu told this to Sanatan Goswami that right, that they're essentially that the wisdom of the essence of all wisdom is found in 3 things: Namaruchi, Jivadaya, and or Vaishnav Seva and Jivadaya. These 3 things. And so practically Mahaprabhu and all of his associates, because right, what's it, Sarvopanga, that idea of like Mahaprabhu was also acting and instructing through his associates. So even when Mahaprabhu is sometimes in a seemingly very esoteric, inaccessible space, we can also look at the associates of Mahaprabhu as his angas, his extensions, and we can learn from them. So either directly or through his associates, they're modeling what is actually Namruchi. what is actually Vaishnav Seva? What is actually Jivadaya? If you look in, and again, I'm not such an expert on this. It's actually, I'm not so well read in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but many of my dear friends and teachers and god brothers and god sisters, they've gone into so much detail about how practically each and every episode, each lila from Chaitanya Charitamrita is just showing Vaishnav relationships. You can have a whole seminar just on Vaishnav relationships from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So again, a very practical lesson, how to live in community, how to come together, right? That even as degraded as we might be in Kali Yuga, we have the opportunity to do that. We may not be able to do it alone, but with Sangha, in community, we can do that. I mean, that's just my little reflection, but does anyone have anything to add or any other thoughts on this? Mohan Vilas Prabhu's question. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? No. See, I've overwhelmed you. You expected just a class on a 2-armed Mahaprabhu. I gave you 6 arms, so it's too much. Okay. Anyway, again, I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And it's an invitation. We all have our own relationship with Mahaprabhu. Some of us are very inspired by different aspects of Mahaprabhu's Leela, even different forms of Mahaprabhu. But if you are so inclined, if you'd like to, just even as a little experiment this year for Gaur Purnima, try to just, reflect on and meditate on this beautiful